Hi, everyone. Welcome to another breakout session for the 2021 General Assembly. Here we are today with Claudia Durand, who is the founder of Associates in the City, and she will be telling us about a presentation on inspiring action through social media during COVID-19. Welcome, Claudia. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Brianna. And thank you so much to everyone who's joining me today. I am so happy to be in your screens and in your homes and in your offices talking about something that I'm deeply passionate about. Technically, two things that I'm passionate about, which would be student leadership and digital marketing. So a little background on me. I was just like you a few years ago. I was a student leader myself in the California Community College system. I attended Southwestern College all the way back in 2009, so back a long time ago. And I got a chance to serve in different positions. I was student body president, I was student trustee, I was a senator, I was the president of Phi Theta Kappa. I also served as the vice president of CCAS, which at the time was the Student Trustee Caucus. So I say all this to just paint a picture of what I've experienced and how much of your experience I understand. Now, of course, you're dealing with much more difficult circumstances, being that it's COVID-19 and we were facing different issues at the time. And then in addition to that, I've spent almost 10 years in digital marketing. I've done almost every digital marketing position you can imagine. I've been a social media community manager. I've been an intern. I've worked in Facebook media buying and selling ads. I have worked at the agency level. I've managed some very small budgets for small clients. I've also managed larger budgets for some larger clients, including National University and California Baptist University in Anaheim. So I've gotten a good feel for what it takes to really succeed in this space. And I will confess before we get started that I had a chance to look at the attendees on the list, and I've gotten a chance to examine some of the social media pages or some of the Facebooks and Instagrams and TikToks that perhaps some of you have put together, and just to give me an idea of what I think has room for improvement and what I think should be celebrated, because all of you are doing such a fantastic job given the circumstances, and I just want to celebrate that. So let's start off with an interesting question, and I hope you're able to answer in the chat. In all my years of being involved in student leadership in different capacities, I've seen many students apply or run for a position, whether that be president or senator. And I'm sorry, Brian, I think my screen is no longer being shared.
I fixed it, sorry.
Oh, no problem. There we go, we're back on. I got a chance to speak with different students, and many of them have, they when they're running, you say, what are your priorities when you run? And I've seen different students from all different walks of life, everything from Occupy Wall Street to Black Lives Matter, everything from WikiLeaks to Bitcoin back in the day to, more social justice matters. But of all the, mistake, there we go. So of all of the different types of priorities that students have, what would you say, and I may have revealed it in the last slide, what would you say is the number one priority for students, whether it's increasing graduation rates, transfer rates? I'm going to see if I can open up the chat, which I'm not sure if I can. Oh, here we go. Beautiful. B. Okay. Riverside City College, that's a great school. Transfer rates, and that's actually quite a common one. A, good. Graduation rates. D, none of the above. C, student GPAs. By the way, these are all big priorities as well. I have heard of student leaders wanting to improve on these. I've seen 2 Ds. It's interesting, 2 As. Oh, I won't keep you in suspense. The correct answer is going to come up in a minute once my screen loads. It's increasing in student engagement, meaning the answer is D, none of the above. Student engagement is the number one answer that I hear. I hear students say, how can we get more students involved? How can I get more students to come to my college hour? Or, the district governing board isn't making good decisions. I wish that all of the students, 20,000, 10,000, however many students on my campus, would just show up and air their grievances. How do I get students to do that? How do I convince them that that's important? Which brings me to my next question. Question number 2 is, which of these 4 options would you consider to be student engagement? Now, some of them you might consider, maybe more than one, but I challenge you to just choose one. Is it A, viewing a post, like an Instagram post, not liking it, just viewing it? Or is it B, liking a post? Or C, attending a board meeting? Or D, running for student gov? There's no right or wrong answer here. I just really want to know what you think about this, what you consider to be real student engagement. B, C, okay. Thank you, Hector. Thank you, Arieli. Jessica Taylor, good. Let's see, so we have a couple more. Good, okay. So looks like it's between C and D. What's interesting about this is that I don't think I saw anyone say A, meaning I don't, and this is very common, that no one here is saying that viewing a post without acting on it counts as student engagement. In other words, it's not enough to just look at a Facebook post or an Instagram post. You also have to be involved. You have to take an action. So, out of all the different pages that I've seen and the years that I've been doing this, I've noticed, I would say, 3 common mistakes or 3 areas for improvement that I see on social media. And I want to go over these today because the solution to these is very simple and we can easily solve it. Okay. So clearly, just active engage or just looking at a post does not advocacy make. Okay. So mistake number 1 that I see very often with social media and student leaders who are behind the social media is there's a focus on the talk, but not so much on the action. And the solution to this is really quite simple. But before I get to that, really when I talk about talk, what I mean is you're always going to have different types of students on your campus. You're going to have students who are apathetic to student government, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Many of these are single parents. Maybe they're former military. Maybe they're men and women who are working 2 or 3 jobs. So they don't have time to be involved in student government. They don't care about student government. They care about feeding their kids and getting good grades. However, you will have students who are hungry for leadership. I mean, they see what's happening on the news. They see what's happening with George Floyd. They see the violence against Asian Americans, and they get very passionate and upset, and they're ready. They're ready to act. The problem is that they don't know where to go or what to do. They, should I write my congressperson? Should I, put an angry Twitter post? What do I do? So this is where you as a student leader would come in. You are there to help guide this direction and really tap into that passion, which, believe it or not, a lot of students have. So the solution here would be to prioritize conversions. Now, I use the word conversions in the business sense. So when we work in digital marketing and we talk to a client, we often say, so what is your conversion? Is your conversion to sell this product or to convert someone from just being interested in it to maybe signing up for an appointment, creating a lead? These are the conversions. In your case, you have to decide what your conversion is. So maybe that conversion could be, we want somebody to go to our board meetings, or we want someone who is going to apply to become a senator, or we want someone to just show up to our spring leadership retreat. Whatever the case may be, it could just be to attend SSCCC. So one of the, and you can write down these tips. I have about 9 major tips. And the first tip that I will share with you that I think is great is you have to create a user-friendly path. Again, you're going to have these students who are excited to serve. They're ready. They may not have the training. They may not have the resources, but they're very passionate about changing their world. And as a student leader, you can help guide them along that path. And right now with COVID-19, a lot of students are not able to, they're not able to walk through campus. So your communication with them will be through social media. So let's talk about QR codes for just a minute. Now, QR codes, I'm sure we all have smartphones. Many of us have them, right? We have smartphones. The way the QR codes typically work is that you point your camera phone or your camera from your smartphone towards the QR code, and it'll take you to the website. It'll bring up the URL. The reason for this is that it doesn't, a lot of URLs are very long. So instead of typing in HTTPS, you just point a picture and it just brings you to it. The problem that I see with a lot of social media posts is that they are including the QR code in the picture that is on Instagram. So if a student is looking at their photo on their smartphone, how are they going to see the QR code? Or how are they going to tap into it? Now, to be fair, there is a way to do this. I was able to do some research on it. There is a way. You would have to download an app, and then you have to take the QR code, take a picture of it, save it on your files, download an app, and then I think you have to upload the picture on the app. And that's not creating an easy path for students, especially students who really have that energy and you don't want to lose momentum with them. So the easy solution to this would be to make sure that you take a student from your post to the page, okay? So you would include the link instead. So the real message here with the QR codes is QR codes are fantastic for posters that are going to be out on the street or around your campus. But when it comes to actually posting them on an electronic newsletter, for example, that are going to be most likely viewed on a phone, it's going to be very difficult for the student to tap into that link. So include links whenever possible. And on that note, I included this picture here on the right that shows a link, and this is another common mistake that I see, is that it includes the link inside of the little comment section on the bottom. I don't know what happened. I just forgot what it was called. What happens is a lot of students will take that entire URL and paste it down on the bottom. The problem is that Instagram not only doesn't allow you to click on it, it also doesn't allow you to copy it. So if a student says, oh, wow, there's a really interesting leadership event that I want to go to. Oh, and I can sign up on this URL. Oh, I can't copy it. Well, that's inconvenient. So what do? Well, they're going to have to either go on their computer and write down word for word, www, all that, or they're going to have to write it down, which may cause an inconvenience for them. So if you must include a URL, I would advise you to include a URL that's as short as possible, maybe even easy to memorize, easy to use, for the student to implement. I see I have a question here. Okay. So what you want to do is make sure that if you must, make sure that it's as short as possible. And if you want to go a step even further, include the link up on the bio section, because all the student would have to do is click it and it'll take them there. Okay. Okay. So tip number 2, and this one might be a little bit more complicated depending on your campus, is sometimes you will do everything right. You will put a URL where it's supposed to be. You're taking that student leader through the journey, and then they get to your page. They get to what we in the marketing industry call the landing page, meaning this is where you convert the lead. This is where there's a big button that says call now or sign up. Or in the case of a student leadership, let us know what your name is so you can sign up for our newsletter. But there will be something wrong with the page, right? Maybe it's not loading properly. Maybe it's taking forever to load. Maybe I speak with a lot of student leaders who say, our student leadership page has pictures from student leaders that haven't been here since 2017. And I've tried talking to my IT department, Claudia. I've tried to talk to my superintendent, and I just can't seem to get through to them. And I don't know what to do. Here's what you do. First of all, don't beat yourself up. You're a student leader. You're doing the best that you can. If it's at all possible to fix the issue, all the better. But if you can't, at the very least, become aware of it. One thing you can do that's within your control is to look at the page where you're trying to send students and take a look at what it looks like on a desktop, on a laptop. on a mobile phone or on a tablet. And that way, in the event that it doesn't look right on any particular platform, at the very least, you can tell a student, okay, visit our website, but just be aware, it may look a little bit weird on an Android, or it may just take a while to load if you're using a tablet. So at the very least, you have that to your availability. Again, you're just creating an easy path for students here, and it's very easy to do. Tip number 3 is to create clear calls to action. So in the case of something like this, I've seen so many great posts from students, some videos or some posters from Canva that students work so hard on. You can tell they poured their heart into it. And a student, think of a student who wants to get involved. They look at that poster. You do not want to leave that student thinking, well, now what? Make it clear for them what steps they can take next, whatever that might be, whether it's to learn more, swipe up, or if you'd like to sign up for this, there's a link in the bio. Or one of my favorite things to do is I'm able to create a video in which I literally with my finger point. So for instance, right now I'm pointing at my name right down there. And that's a great call to action right there. If I say, oh, if you want to learn more about the SSCCC, click on the description or click on this to get to their profile. And from there, those students who are anxious and excited and want to get involved now have some direction. And then you're taking them to the next step in the journey. Okay, so mistake number 2 that I see very often, and this might be tough, but one of the things I see with social media accounts is that it's all fun and no business. And I think the reason for that is because for some clients that I've worked with, they don't think social media actually works. They think, oh yeah, that's something that my 17-year-old son does, and well, I can't make money off of that. And that's just not true. You can definitely gain a lot of conversions, or in the case of you as a student leader, you can entice a lot of action from your students, but it can't be something that you do casually whenever you're sitting at home and, oh, right, I'm a little bored and I am the communications officer. So let me see. Oh, there's a photo right there, right? You do have to put in a little bit of work towards it. It's great that it's fun, and fun is a big part of it, but you also have to entice the business part. So as a student leader, you know this better than anyone. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And you understand this because in a way, you are the squeaky wheel. And I mean that in the best possible way. You understand that students have a voice, and you understand that students have needs, and you are the squeaky wheel saying, excuse me, we need help here, right? We have student needs, students who need housing, students who need basic needs here. We need some attention. So the same applies for your data. And when I say data, I mean the information that you're getting from your social media, from the comments that students are leaving, from the amount of likes that you're getting, from the lack of likes that you're getting. That's your students, your constituency telling you through social media, excuse me, we need some attention here, something's missing. So that being said, the solution to this would be to start a quote unquote social media business. Now, when I say this, I'm not saying that you have to start making money. This is not about money. What I'm saying is that you need to start looking at your position as if you are the senior communications officer for your organization. If you're watching this right now and you're the president of your AS, or you're the student trustee, or whatever, you are in essence a C-suite officer for an organization. So think of that when you think about using social media. So tip number 4, this is one of the easiest tips I can give you, and it'll go a long way, is to update consistently. Now, going back to treating social media as a business, understand that any platform you use, whatever is best for your constituency, whether that's Facebook or TikTok or Snapchat, all these social media platforms are businesses themselves. And as a business, what they want is to keep the users on the platform longer. The reason for that is because the longer they stay on the platform, the more advertisers can advertise to them. Now, we can argue the merits of this another time, but I want you to understand what it means to be a social media platform, what it means to be Mark Zuckerberg, essentially. So social media platforms will do whatever it takes to make sure this happens, within limits, of course. So if you are able to work business to business, remember, you're a business person. If you're able to communicate with social media platforms and say, listen, I can keep people on your platform longer, but I'm going to need you to up my content, make sure that it floats up to the top. You know as well as I do that sometimes you'll post something and nobody will see it. You'll get no likes. And that's because Facebook or Instagram's algorithm will actually bring it down some. They don't do this on purpose to hurt you. They do this because they see what's happening and they're saying, oh, Claudia doesn't update very often. She updated once. Well, that doesn't look good for the user. The user might look at her account and think that it's out of date or that it no longer exists. Our users don't like that. So maybe we shouldn't promote it too much. But if they promote an account like Coca-Cola or BMW, who post very often, they might say, oh, okay, then you know what? If they visit this website, they're going to be staying quite a while. So for this reason, I advise you to update consistently. It doesn't have to be every day. It could be every week. It could be every month. Whatever you do, make sure you do it consistently. And what you're going to find is that over a period of weeks, or maybe even a couple of months, you're going to start to notice that Instagram, Facebook, and all these social media platforms are going to start to get on your good side. They're going to start to promote your content. You're communicating with the algorithm. Now, what exactly the algorithm is a company secret. Even digital marketers like myself don't know, which is why we have to A/B test different methods to see what works best. But I can tell you there's definitely an algorithm, and Instagram and Facebook and all these platforms, they want to keep their users happy. So get on their good side. Oh, I forgot to mention one more thing. So if you want to post more often, I recommend that you curate. So this is for Instagram. If you have a business page or any page, you can swipe left on your home page, go to saved, and you're going to just collect different pictures that you see that seem interesting to you. That way, when it's time to post, you don't have to search for something. All you got to do is just copy, paste, and share, and you're good to go. So on that same page, using a content calendar is very effective. We use this very often in the industry, and this is just a very simple one that I included here, but we can go way, way deeper. I mean, this just shows you the date, the time, what kind of post it is, but we can keep track of everything. I've seen content calendars that keep track of what the weather is like when we post, or what kind of how old is the audience we targeted. I mean, you can get very hyper focused, but if you're not a marketing person or you don't want to deal with a lot of numbers, that's okay. Just make sure that you have a picture and a caption, and that's really all you need. And then make sure that you have it ready for the month. It only takes a few hours. And then once you have it for the month, whenever it's time to post, you just copy and paste and you are good to go. Now, this next one might be a little weird, but all the research that I've uncovered, all my years in the industry have uncovered that this is actually more important than we think, and that is keeping a healthy follower-following ratio. So as you can see, the little picture up here with the puppy, this little puppy has 17,000 followers, and this puppy is only following less than 1,000 people. So this means that more people want to know what the puppy's doing than what the puppy is interested in. So what does this tell you right here? Well, it can tell you, we really don't know. For all we know, the followers are just buy. You can actually buy Instagram followers. We don't know if the people are serious. We really don't know much about this. But I will tell you one thing. If the amount of followers and the people you're following are identical, what you're communicating to your audience there is the people who are following you, well, they're just following you to return the favor. That means that maybe they're not following you because you produce quality content. Now, that may not be a conscious thought, but it will be a subconscious thought, and it will have an effect on how students respond to your content. So you can take this however you want. I have had student leaders who tell me, well, Claudia, I don't believe in that. If a student goes to Cypress or Merrill or Columbia or any college, if they come to my school, I'm going to follow them. To which I say, by all means, go ahead. On one condition. You have to be involved with every single student that you follow. And by that, you have to like and comment and reach out to them as often as you can. You have to look through everything and make sure that you're not following them just because. You're doing it because you're trying to build a connection with your constituency. Now, if you're following thousands of students, good luck doing that every day, especially when you have classes and meetings. It's going to be a little bit tough. If you follow less people, say maybe you only follow your the president of the college or certain constituents, certain major constituency groups. So instead of following every student from the California Community College system, I just follow the SSCCC. Well, then I'm able to keep up with some of the big issues of the day. But it's really up to you. All I will say is keep in mind how this affects the psychology of how people view your page. And if you are going to follow more people than the people who follow you, make sure that you're involved in their lives. You're not just following them just because. People don't appreciate that. They don't appreciate just being used for clout. Okay. Here's another one. This is another one that whenever I speak to my clients about this, it's one of the biggest conversations that, or one of the longest conversations that we have, because some of them may be a little resistant here. And that is tip number 7, to become a hedgehog and not a fox. Now, what I mean by that, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the story of the hedgehog and the fox, is that the fox can do many things: run, jump, climb, do all these things, and can do all of them just mediocre. Or the hedgehog, who can only do one thing, but is very good at that one thing. So when it comes to social media, I've seen many student leaders and many of my clients who say, yeah, take over our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Friendster, MySpace. I mean, they are everywhere. But when we look at their pages, they haven't posted anything since 2007. And what that does is it sends the wrong message to the consumer or to the student. It says one of two things. It either says, number one, you're no longer in business, meaning you no longer exist, or number two, you do exist, but you don't care. So if you don't care about this one teeny tiny thing, how are you going to care about the major issues of the day? So this is where you may need to have a difficult conversation with your executive board or with your senators or even with your advisor. If you're not using a social media platform, you may want to consider removing yourself from that platform. And then maybe if there's a need for the students to see you there, then you can step back in. But I don't recommend just being on a platform just for the sake of it. I've seen it countless times, right? The communications officer will step in and say, I've been working, I promise, look, we're on YouTube now. And okay, that's good. But I mean, I can be on YouTube in the next I could just sign up for an account in 2 minutes. An accomplishment would be, we have 100 followers, or we've uploaded our 10th video. Now that's an accomplishment, and that takes a lot of work. But to just be on a platform is not enough. Now, when it comes to Facebook, we've seen these numbers, I would say, over the last 6 to 8 years. Facebook is attracting a much older audience. So for non-traditional students, such as myself, I'm a non-traditional student, you may find that you're able to reach them a little bit better on Facebook than on TikTok or Twitter or any of these newer platforms. So you'll have to do your own research. Every campus is different. So if you find that you have a lot of non-traditional students on your campus, say if you're close to a naval base, or if you're close to a large retirement community, then Facebook may be the way to go. But if you're not seeing a lot of students there, or if students complain that they're not seeing you anywhere else and they're not on Facebook anymore, then maybe you need to remove that page, or make it clear, at least put a message that says, hey, if you want to know what we're up to, follow us on these platforms. Okay. And here are a few reasons that you may want to keep Facebook. For group chats, we haven't quite done too well with some of these other platforms. They're getting there, but not quite there yet. For calendar invites, there's really no calendar feature on Instagram that works really well. Of course, for older users. And then for uploading massive amounts of photos, the carousel feature on Instagram only lets you upload up to 10. And if you have lots and lots of photos, Facebook is really good for that. Okay, so this next part, if you are I don't know if anyone here is a business major or a marketing major, or if you have any interest in this at all. If you plan to work in this industry, you're gonna love these next few slides. If you're not, if you have no interest in numbers and graphs, not to worry. This will just be a little bit, and I promise you it'll be definitely worth it. So when you're having conversations with your constituency groups on your campus, maybe your academic senate, your deans, the superintendent, and all these major stakeholder groups. You're going to talk about data-driven decision making. So you're going to take account of how many students are there, what their needs are. So if you're going to be using social media to drive real change, you're going to need to start making some data-driven decisions. So I broke it down into 3 easy steps here. The first is establish KPIs, or key performance indicators. The next is to aggregate all that data. And the third is to present your information to everybody. So don't panic if this seems a little too business talky. It's okay. I'll explain what this is. Starting with a key performance indicator. Think of this as a goal on your way to another goal. Very simple. So let's just say for your associated student organization or associated student government, you want to bring in 10 students to speak at a board meeting. That's your goal. Your KPI would be, okay, can we get, we need to get 10 students for the March meeting. Can we get 2 students for the February meeting? Kind of like a little goal on the way to the big one, right? And this can vary depending on your campus. Think of it as a dashboard in your car. It kind of lets you know how you're doing. So an example of how you will come up with a KPI is, I used it here. Let's just say, for example, your student government wants to fill all the vacancies, all the Senate seats and all the director seats by the fall semester, or by the end of the fall semester. So by the time you start in the spring, you'll have a full board and you're good to go. So you decide that you're going to use Facebook and Instagram to promote and say, hey, run for ASO, run for Senate, run for this position. In order to reach the students, you're trying to calculate the amount of reach per post. So therefore, your KPI would be, can we increase the amount of reach to 20%? Again, if it's too complicated, don't worry about it. This could be anything you want. You don't have to use numbers this complex. Step number 2 would be to aggregate data. So this is a lot of information right here. It does not have to be this way for you. All I ask, for instance, if you're on Facebook or TikTok, write down either on a notebook or preferably on an Excel sheet, just write down, how are your posts doing? So if you're posting a picture of, I don't know, a pet a puppy day that your school is having, for example, once we're able to be back on campus, and you notice that it gets 100 likes. Wow, well, that's impressive, right? And then maybe the next day you post another post of, I don't know, free ice cream sundaes, for example, and it only gets 50 likes. Well, you went from having 100 to 50, you'd rather have 100. Why is it that post got more likes? Is it because people like puppies more? Is it because you posted that on a Saturday and people just like more stuff on Saturdays? Is it that you posted it in the afternoon and there are more people online in the afternoon? You don't know. I don't know. We don't know. So the best way to find out is to bring all the data together. You can grab as much or as little as you'd like. If you're a real technical person and you're a STEM major and you love diving in there to the numbers, feel free to dive in. But if you are a little more right brain, you don't like to mess with that too much, just pay close attention to the tiny numbers and aggregate that data. And there's an easy way to do this on Instagram. So you can take a look at Insights. I really like this because it's very easy to use. There's no complicated Excel sheets. It just tells you, you posted these posts. These are the posts that you've posted. Do you want to see which one has the most followers, or put them in order of which one got the most likes or which one got the most comments? You decide what's more important to you. And then step number 3 is to present the data. Now, Microsoft Excel, I really like it, but I find that it's not very user-friendly. It's a little weird and complicated, and also it costs money, and students struggle financially. So I would recommend using Google Sheets, Google Analytics, or Google Data Studio. They're free and they're super easy to use. If you're not a numbers person, you're not a math person, you'd rather deal with the social media side, these are very good tools. And you can actually get certified in some of these for free. You do some training through Google Training, and then you take an exam, and then you get a certification for up to a year. And that actually looks really good on college resumes. So if you're able to put on a resume, I managed the social media account for an organization that manages $500,000, and I'm also Google Analytics certified, and you want to do social media as a career, this is a really, really good move. Okay. So now I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, seriously? Seriously, the mistake number 2 was that it was all fun and no business, and now mistake number 3 is that it's all business and no fun. Like, what's the deal with that? You got to have a balance, right? But I've seen this happen before, where it's an account that's all business and it's missing that human element. And for those of you who are more the feeler types, more right brained, you're really going to enjoy this. Okay, so what's the solution here? I don't know if anyone here has heard of Simon Sinek. He's a writer. He's produced some very popular, or he's been featured in very popular TED Talks. And one of the things he talks about, one of his first TED Talks that was very successful, was when he talked about starting with why. And he used Apple computers as a good example for this. So if you've already heard this, feel free to tune me out. But if you haven't, what he described was that most companies and organizations start with what? What is basically what you do. So Apple sells computers. How is what sets you apart from the competition, or what is it that I guess you're essentially your differentiator in a sense. But very few companies know why they do what they do. And it's not always it's not just to make a profit, it's really your reason for being. So if Apple was like any other company, they would start with what? And they will say, we sell computers. How? Well, they're user-friendly and simple to use, and they're very pretty. Want to buy one? Doesn't really get to the root of it. It's not that interesting. And this is what a lot of companies do. This is also what a lot of student organizations do. What do? We have meetings and we give out scholarships. We reach out to students who have, a 2.5 GPA and want to get involved in government. Do you want to join? That's typically what you do, right? But Apple is very different because they begin with why. So for Apple, they start at the center, and their why is everything we do, we believe in thinking differently. We believe in challenging the status quo. And the way we do that is by creating products that are easy to use and beautiful. We just happen to make great computers. So that changes the dynamic. So if you think about using the SSCCC, for example, right? If they started from the outside in, they might think, we have General Assembly every year. We have telecommunication phone calls where we talk about the latest issues. And this is open to any student who has the right GPA and is interested in government. Well, that might inspire many people, but if instead it was from the inside out and you thought, we believe that in the state of California, one of the largest states of the union, community college is one of the most innovative and groundbreaking innovations in higher education today. And the way that we promote this mission is by reaching out to students who are interested in student government. We also happen to have a meeting once a month and a big GA at the end of the year. So now that changes the message. Now you're tapping into the why. So when it comes to your social media, it's very important to tap into that why. And there are certain differentiators that get to that. And the best part of it is, and I just had a question from a student who asked me, Claudia, during your presentation, do you mind talking a little bit about, how to use InDesign or how to use Canva? How do I use those graphics to really get to that? I've got great news. If you don't know how to use Adobe, you're in luck, because it's actually quite easy to create this without having any special training in Adobe or Photoshop or any of those platforms. So you're going to love this. Okay, so tip number 8, to drink water. No, I'm just kidding. So tip number 8 is to use video. Now, there are a lot of reasons for this. In the more right brain side of it, the reason to use video is, if you think about the human brain, right? We're designed, or our brains are basically meant to keep us alive and to be on the lookout for anything that might hurt us. There are a lot of inanimate objects around me, around you. There's a computer in front of you, right? The computer doesn't move. Your brain knows how to be efficient. Your brain requires a lot of energy, so it's learned to be very efficient. And if it sees an object that isn't moving or doesn't typically move, your brain typically ignores it because it's not really meant to move. But if something's moving, it triggers a different part of the brain and it makes it pay attention. So for that reason alone, video is a great area to explore for this. In addition to that, more senses are involved. You're listening, you're seeing, there's movement, there's a lot more involved in creating a video. And also, like I mentioned here in the slide, not a lot of people are doing it. And I'm so confused by it. I don't know if people are self-conscious about their video editing skills, or maybe they just don't want to be on camera. But I can tell you, it definitely makes a difference. If you just create even one video of you just saying hello, it makes a huge difference. And also your constituency would appreciate seeing their elected officials on camera. Now that's sort of the you can call it the sentimental reason for it, but the business reason is that, I don't know if you know this, but Google bought YouTube. And the reason for that, I think, is because they understand the value of video. They understand that, we talked about earlier about how platforms want to keep people on their platforms longer. Think about the last time you used YouTube. I'm sure you didn't just watch a 30-second clip. You probably watched a video essay, or maybe an episode from your favorite YouTuber, maybe spend 15, 20 minutes there. Maybe even your TikTok. You consume one TikTok and then you saw another one and another and another, and you spend a lot of time there. So what Google does is, because they want you to spend time there, they will promote whatever keeps you there. A while back, I produced a couple of YouTube videos for our ASO retreat, and I just uploaded them to YouTube, and that was that. We had a couple of students who were invited to a student leadership retreat, and they were kind of confused. They were like, really? You're going to just pay for our meals and a hotel for free? What? And so, because they were skeptical, they did a Google search to see if this was a real thing. And so they Googled Southwestern College ASO retreat, or SWC ASO retreat. And wouldn't you know it, my videos actually came up on the top as a top result. And as you can see, this was a screenshot. And this was above the fold. So they didn't even have to scroll down that far. It was one of the top results. Now, I don't say this to brag or to, any of that. I say this because I'm not a professional. I recorded these videos on my cell phone. I had no budget for this. I had no team. When I edited them, I didn't even have the software for it. I just use an app. So don't think that, oh, well, I need a big budget and big production value to do this. If you have the time, if you're willing to be creative, you're going to find that it's easy to produce videos. Now, as far as where to upload them, I have found that YouTube is the most user-friendly, and it's the most student-friendly. So as students, we're all busy. And what YouTube allows you to do, for instance, on the Android, is that you can upload a video and then you can picture in picture, right? You can just drag it down and the video keeps playing while you do something else. So this is something that Instagram hasn't quite mastered as well yet. And for that reason, if you're going to watch something on Instagram, you're going to have to watch Instagram only, right? You're not going to leave the page to do something else. YouTube allows you to multitask. And for that reason, I think it's just a much better platform to use for now. Instagram, I'm sure, will fix these issues later on. Okay, this is a big one. I mentioned that it's possible for some accounts to be all business and no, missing that part there, that the real heart of that situation. So this is a great place to begin. So I want you to do me a quick favor, if you will, for just a moment. If you look at that black circle in the middle, now don't stare at it, just kind of keep your eyes on it for a minute. And naturally, I mean, you're going to see pictures to your left and pictures to your right. And your eyes might be diverted in one direction or another, right? Now, on the right or on the left, you have pictures of words and letters, which typically don't run around in the wild, right? So your brain doesn't see them as dangerous, or as something to focus on giving all your attention to it. And on the right, you have humans who are looking at you and smiling. So think about that. Think about where your attention is diverted. As you look at the little black circle, your attention might be diverted maybe a little more to the right? And it's natural because you're a human being. You see human beings and they're smiling and they're looking right at you. So whether you try to fight it or not, you're going to feel that pull. So use pictures of people whenever possible. It's okay to have a poster in there every once in a while. But all you do is post posters, it's going to be too businesslike. So whenever possible, show that human side, show yourself. You're an elected official, you're a public figure, you have a responsibility to your constituents to make, to make yourself available. Okay, so tip number 10, and I think this is my last tip, is to include what I call why photos. And this is for two reasons. Why? Because I call them why photos because it's what Simon Sinek refers to as start with why. So it's a why photo because you're getting to the center of human emotion. But it's also a why photo because you want someone to look at the photo and say, why is that happening or what's going on? Basically, you want to entice curiosity. Okay. So there are certain, and this is where I talk about how you don't need special software. You don't need, what kind of color schemes do I use? And oh my gosh, how do I pair these two colors? It's great if you want to go there. If you have the knowledge, go for it. But if you don't know or don't have the time to learn, it is okay. And you can actually do quite well for yourself when it comes to posting pictures. So let's talk about psychic lines. I don't know if anyone here has ever taken an art history class. I was actually an art history major before I was majoring in liberal arts. And when we talked about art, when we talked about design and lines, there were different types of lines, right? They were kind of like crisscross lines and dotted lines. And one of the lines we talked about was psychic lines. And psychic lines is basically the line that occurs between a person. Let me move over here. I think the sun is in my face. There we go. The connection you make between for instance, like I'm looking at my hand right now, there's a psychic line between me and my hand, right? It's not a visible, literal, a concrete line, but there's that connection. If you look at the photo to the left, these individuals are all creating a psychic line with you. You're the viewer. There's one person who is looking off to the side. So there's a psychic line between that person and, I don't know, what appears to be the purse. So when you create these psychic lines, make sure that you're creating it in a positive way. If students are looking somewhere else, it's going to make it seem like they have a connection, not with a person, but with a thing. And it can send the message subconsciously that maybe that's what the organization is about, even though it's not. Now, these next few, I understand, could be a little confusing. Again, we're talking about activism in the time of COVID. So some of these are going to have to be a little bit different. And that is featuring people side by side, getting very close. So a picture like this, I understand you may look at it and become rather uncomfortable because nobody here is wearing a mask and nobody's social distancing. Obviously, this picture was taken pre-COVID. Nevertheless, those types of pictures still get a very positive response. Now, as far as how to update your Facebook, your Instagram during COVID, I will get to that in just a second. But I do think it's worth mentioning, despite COVID, despite all these the warnings that we're hearing from the CDC, which we should all follow. I'm not in no way suggesting, break social distancing to take a photo. No way. I do bring it up because it is something that still tests well. So you should be aware of how well that performs. And then, of course, no bored candidates. Now, when I say a bored candid, I mean, I see this quite often, pre-COVID. We'll have somebody who's trying to take pictures of an event and they don't take out their camera phone and say, all right, everybody gather around. I'm going to take a photo real quick. What they do is they just kind of look around and then, take a photo when nobody's looking. And the reason for that, I think, is because I think a lot of student leaders may be a little bit camera shy. Or they may think, especially someone like me, I can become a little self-conscious and anxious and be like, oh, well, I didn't put on my makeup today. And, oh, I don't look good. And so they may just, put their hand on the lens like, no, get that camera out of my face. Like I said, you're a student leader, you're an elected official. Now, of course, I think it's important to respect everyone's privacy. But do consider, if you're not going to take photos, fair enough. But how are you reaching out to your constituents? How are you letting them know that you're available? If they have a question or a concern, how can they reach you if they don't know what you look like? So consider that. And I think many times, just ask for permission, everybody, we're all close. Let's take a picture together. And if somebody doesn't want to be part of that photo, respect that. They don't want to be featured. They can stand off to the side and we can respect their right to privacy. Okay. Now, The next photos, the next two photos that I'm going to show you are two photos that were taken. One was taken before I became communications officer, and one was taken after. And you're going to see the difference between the two. Okay, so the picture on the left breaks all the rules, everything I mentioned, right? So obviously both were taken pre-COVID. I have to specify this. So the one on the left, take a look at the psychic lines. So you have one individual looking off at the wall. We have another one looking at the table, another one looking at the phone. One's looking at a laptop and the other's looking off to the side. So the psychic lines are everywhere and it's communicating to the viewer. Yeah, these people may not like each other, or they may have received some bad news. Now I can tell you, I was there when this picture was taken, and the environment during this meeting is not at all reflected by this photo. It was just a bad moment. And this is an example of a bored candid, right? The person who took this photo wanted to capture the moment, but was too shy to ask people to just come together for a photo. Also, everyone's far away and nobody's smiling. And it just makes it seem like this is just all in the day's work. And we had a very difficult time getting students to come and join us because they thought that this was us all the time. So when I became communications officer, one of the biggest changes and one of the things that led to us increasing our numbers was posting pictures like this, the one on the right. So this is very different, right? The mood is obviously very different. The psychic lines have been adjusted, all by asking these student leaders if they would just mind taking a quick moment for me to just snap a photo. Now, this picture isn't perfect. As you can see, there's a blurry arm. The picture's kind of blurry to begin with. There's some color, but it's really not that great. Nevertheless, the mood just completely changes, and it changes the way a viewer will look at the organization. So once again, if you're self-conscious about graphic design, or you don't really know much about it, or you don't know how to work with a computer, you can relax, because really all it takes is just a camera and a smiling face, and you would be amazed what that can do for your constituency. Now, I do want to talk about COVID, because obviously we wouldn't be able to take pictures like these today, given the current situation, especially when you're taking courses online, when everybody's working outside of the office. It can be quite difficult. And I've had several students mention, Claudia, you know what, I'm just going to turn off the Instagram, I'm not going to be involved with it anymore. It's just not worth doing. It's impossible, Claudia. It's impossible to take COVID-friendly photos during this time, or it's impossible to make photos that entice action during this time. All of these photos I was able to find 15 minutes, maybe a little bit more, maybe a couple of hours ago before this presentation. And I did this on purpose so that I was able to capture pictures taken during COVID, or taken in the last few months. So as you can see, you can still follow the rules with COVID. You can still show people being there all by themselves, right? And you can still kind of see the smile up into their eyes, even when the mask is covered. You can see these psychic lines happening in this picture on the top left-hand corner between the officers and the students, or even in these photos where everybody's looking directly at the camera. I believe that is what makes a difference. Sometimes it's really just the gestures, like on the top right-hand corner, you see these two students. I believe that's actually the president and vice president of the Associated Student Government of Florida International, I believe. So these, by the way, these are all student leaders from across the country. So really my point here is you can still follow the rules and still take photos that bring your students in and make your students want to say, you know what, I think I want to be involved with that organization, and makes them want to take a part in that. Okay. So there's okay. Now, this concludes my presentation. And I didn't want my last slide to just be a slide that said, thank you, any questions, like most presenters. I didn't want to do that. Instead, I want this to be the last slide you see. I believe leaders are readers, knowledge is power. By the way, this is not sponsored. I'm not making money when you buy these books or anything like that. Many of these you can find in your local library. If you're interested in any of the topics I discussed, then I would recommend some of these books. Simon Sinek's Start With Why. This is actually a really good book for any student leader or any young person in charge of an organization. The book in the middle here, Trust Me, I'm Lying by Ryan Holiday. This one's a bit of a controversial book, and it's actually mandatory reading in a lot of journalism classes. So if you're a journalism major or a public relations major, you might be very familiar with this book. And it basically talks about how the media and how news are spread and what triggers action. So it's very good to read this just so you know what to avoid. And then lastly, if you're not a marketing person, you're like, Claudia, good, but I'm just not interested. Hey, not a problem. I still recommend this book. It's How to Win at College. This is it's a really super short read. You can read it in a couple of hours. You don't have to read it from start to finish. You can just grab the book and then just part it in half and read it, and you'll get something out of it. Basically, it's a collection of tips, I think about 200 of them, that teach you how to win at college, how to be efficient. So there are things like, don't do all your reading, learn how to skim, learn how to get the best material. Make sure you always have a passion project. Eat 2 meals alone so that you can focus on your schoolwork, things like that. And Cal Newport, I believe, was a student at Brown University. So this was written for students by students. So that's really what I want to leave you with today. And I also want to give a huge thank you to everyone, to our moderators and the people who've been typing in the chat, and our facilitators, and to Brianna for helping set this up. So, and of course to the SSCCC. And of course, a huge thank you to you, because this is a Saturday and you are at home or in a cafe, and you're doing what's in the interest of the students. So I really want to thank you for being here. I hope you got something out of this presentation, and I hope you get something out of every presentation. So thank you. I'm very grateful for this opportunity. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer at this time.